Good morning from Bangor City Forest. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. It's days like this that I pity all those other radio announcers. You know, all those announcers cooped up in a little studio, probably without a window to the outdoors. This is my studio, and right now my co-host is an American robin. All right, cue the theme music. That's better. This is Bob Duchesne, and I started this month, Sunday, May 1st, as the ceremonial celebrity who was asked to speak at this year's opening of the Orono Boardwalk. Now, if I was asked to do it, that just goes to show you we need more celebrities around here. That sound you hear is the bottom of the barrel being scraped. Still, it's this time of year that the city forest and the boardwalk really come alive. Usually I go to enjoy the scenery. This time of year, I go to enjoy the sounds. This is nature, made for radio. You're about to hear the forest and walk the boardwalk. And for that, I'll be joined by boardwalk volunteer docent Donna Dwyer in just a few minutes. You may have done the boardwalk before, but not like this. Put on some DEET and let's go. Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine is brought to you by Hammond Lumber, Doors Equipment, Napa Auto Parts, and EBS. Now, where were we? The Blue Jays are back there. Hey. Well, here's why the woods are noisy. First, migrating birds just got back. They're very anxious to establish a territory. They're also very anxious to attract a female. Second, they're especially noisy in the morning. The air is cool and sound carries better, so they do most of their advertising before the day warms up. Now, I got here at 6 in the morning, and even before I could open the car door, I could hear 5 different warblers, a finch, flycatcher, and this here robin. All right, follow me. Now, behind us, there's a northern water thrush singing. To my right, black-throated green warbler. There it is. But here's the guy I'm after, an ovenbird. Now, you must have heard this one before. He's a member of the warbler family, but he's weird. Spends most of his life feeding in the ground. They even nest in the ground. Let's get a little closer. He's deep in the bushes, so we won't bother him. Come on. Come on. There he is. Well, they build this little nest in the ground that looks like a Dutch oven. This loud song is usually written out as teacher, 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 which makes it a little easier to remember. They're very common all over the state, and it's a rather loud bird. They're really territorial. They can't stand it when another ovenbird wanders into their territory. Little fights break out and they chase each other around. Often I find that a road or a path is the dividing line between the two territories. They'll sing at each other to make sure no one crosses the line. This is an ovenbird. All right, let's step along. There's another one right over here. Another warbler. The song of the magnolia warbler isn't very impressive. But it's one of those birds that makes you say, wow, when you see it. It's very bright yellow with a streaky black necklace, a little white around the face, and a tendency to sing from just the other side of the bush where you can't see the little twerp. There's a lot of them around, especially here in Bangor City Forest. They don't get as annoyed with each other as the ovenbirds do. But there are some singing contests for territory going on right now. There's at least 6 of them within a quick walk of the parking lot. There's a black and white warbler back there, too. Ooh, blue-headed vireo right there. And a yellow rump warbler. There's a lot going on right here. Hold on, let's see what I can hear. Now, blue-headed vireo. And there's the yellow rump warbler. And a blue-headed vireo. Step over here a little more. There's even a white-throated sparrow sort of chipping in the leaves beneath this bush here. Oh, there's a flicker. Flicker calling now. Still get the blue-headed vireo. What else we got? You still hear a black and white warbler back here. Oop, but you can't. There's the yellow rump warbler again. So you get little pockets where it gets really noisy with a whole bunch of birds, and boy, that can just drive you nuts. Come on, where'd you go? Here's the yellow rump warbler. Give me one more. There we go. All right, let's turn this way. Now, the whole point of this is that Bangor City Forest is a pleasant walk with lots of things to see. But this time of year, you can double your fun with lots of things to hear. And maybe not hear. There's a black-throated green warbler there. There's a rough grouse drumming just about 100 yards in, so you probably didn't hear that. Anyway, some people are sightseers. I'm a sight hearer. There's a purple finch flying over. Oh! And a noisy northern flicker is flying by in the distance. And that blue-headed vireo, which is small. It's about the size of a warbler, maybe a little bigger. So let's start to head towards Orono Bog Boardwalk. We've got to meet up with Donna Dwyer, and we're going to take a little stroll along the boardwalk and talk about what there is to see and hear there. Oh, there's the test of your hearing. The really high squeaky notes of a golden crown kinglet right next to me. Now, this guy isn't a migrant, well, not mostly. Many stay all winter, but he's doing his love song right now, trying to attract a mate. The problem is older folks start to lose this end of their hearing range. There's also a little seat of a white-throated sparrow from just under that bush. There goes the kinglet. The sparrow's kicking up leaves looking for food. Now, I mentioned this guy a couple of times. Black-throated green warbler. This one is really common. You probably got it near home, or really anywhere in the forest. Well, as you can hear, I finally walked up to the cabin at the Orono Bog Boardwalk. This eastern phoebe is always here. In fact, he nests under the eaves of the kiosk, and he's really used to visitors. This is where I will meet up with Donna Dwyer. I guess I'm here first, so let's take a break. There's a northern water thrush, and we'll uncover some secrets of the Orono Bog Boardwalk. Oh, pine warbler. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine, and the radio station is 92.9 The Ticket. Welcome back to Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. I am in Bangor City Forest, right at the start of the Orono Bog Boardwalk. While we're on break, Donna Dwyer has joined me. Hi, Donna. Donna is a volunteer and often gets the chance to explain the bog to adults and school kids. Today, she'll explain it to me and to you. So, this is the peat bog.
It's an excellent example of a northern peat bog and has not been disturbed by other things, you know.
Yeah, we didn't build a road through it.
No road has been built through it, and it hasn't been harvested for peat.
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb, because if I remember my geology right, essentially this was once a pond. The glaciers melted, left water all over the landscape. Anything that didn't really have a good inlet or outlet sort of became a peat bog as it slowly filled in. This appears to be one of them.
It is. And what happened when the glaciers receded is there was a fine clay silt left in the basin part dug out by the glacier. And because of that fine silt, the clay, the water will stay in the bog. And that clay is down below the bog, in some places 25 feet deep.
So this is a particularly significant bog.
Yes, because it has that clay silt there. It does hold the moisture, and as the moss, the peat, got growing more and more, it got covered up, and peat doesn't allow much oxygen, so it doesn't deteriorate. And so therefore then you end up with lots and lots of layers of peat. And if we left it alone and didn't go out on that boardwalk again, the peat would eventually grow over top of the boardwalk. We don't let it happen.
No, I wouldn't think. So this is the actual boardwalk here. It's part of Bangor City Forest. So you get a twofer when you come out here, not only the bog boardwalk, but all these trails of Bangor City Forest.
Yes, you do. And I do recommend that people have never been out here before to please look it up on the internet or check the maps that are here and know where you're going, because anybody that's a novice to it, it can get a little confusing. But we're only 1/4 of a mile in from the Trip Drive parking lot. Take the east trail, not the west trail. If you take the west trail, it's going to take you 3.5 miles to get here. So come in the East Trail, and when you get to the cabin, there's the entrance to the boardwalk.
And usually there'll be somebody here, a docent or at least a collection box so you can make your donation, because we still have to raise some money for this thing.
Yes, we do. We still have to raise over $400,000 to finish replacing the old wooden sections. And there's a stack of wood over there that's got, right here, it's got over 300 boards in it right here that are going to be used this summer for still repairing the old wooden sections that haven't been replaced yet. So it's a constant replacement kind of thing.
Probably we learned a lot from building wood out on a bog, because it wasn't all that long ago that boardwalk was built, and now it has to be replaced. And apparently wood does not do that well in wet conditions, in open conditions, in conditions that have carpenter ants.
Carpenter ants are an issue, and one of the fungi, brown rust, I think is the one it's called, it rots the wood. And the carpenter ants eat the wood. So the damage is quite significant when that starts happening. And of course, the wetter places in the bog is where we've had the most trouble, because then even the big wooden support boards underneath are rotting. And so that creates even more work to be done when you have to replace that. But what was really amazing when we first put out the first 106 sections in the fall of 2014, and they came out in the spring to get things ready to go. No, we put them in the spring, didn't open until July, and then came out the next year to see how it had done. There was little to no maintenance that had to be done, or leveling that had to be done on those new sections, where it used to take weeks to get everything leveled up. But the new sections are there, they stay where they're put, and we don't have those issues.
Well, that's good, because this is really not built on anything solid. It's half of it's floating out there on what's essentially a mat of vegetation.
Right. And the fun part is walking on the floating sections, because they actually move up and down with you.
Okay, well, let's take a little walk along the boardwalk. Here's what really always excites me about the boardwalk. There are these great interpretive signs, and they are just uncannily accurate. For instance, at the right lower corner of this sign, it says, "Look for northern water thrush." That's what's making the noise. That's what that bird is.
Certainly is. He's talking today. And this area is really great, especially this time of year, because of the skunk cabbages.
It's all over the place.
It is all over the place. And right now, it is in its stage of the leaves just beginning to really show up big time, and they are growing bigger. Those flowers in there, the cabbage smells like skunk because it attracts bugs. The bugs crawl into there and the bugs get warm there because the skunk cabbage keeps them warm, and then the skunk cabbage gets their flowers fertilized so that it can make a seed. Because the skunk cabbage is out here 365 days a year, but it shows up in different ways through the whole process. Right now it's in its spring, just sprouting out bright green leaves. If you tear one of those leaves and smell it, it will smell like a skunk. Children are impressed by that.
I'll bet they are.
And then the other thing that's coming up right now, there's lots and lots of fiddleheads also starting to compete with the skunk cabbage. And the fiddleheads are not the edible ones. These are basically three different kinds of ferns. We have a cinnamon fern and a royal fern and I'm trying to remember the third.
And another one.
And another one. Sensitive fern.
Okay.
The sensitive ones haven't come up yet because they're sensitive to the cold. But the cinnamon ferns, I really believe, are the ones that are coming up big time right now. And they have nothing to do with cinnamon. They just have brown stalks in them, which is part of the seeding process of the fern, and they look like cinnamon sticks. So that's how it got its name.
And one of the most important parts about this boardwalk in general is it's wet. And so you have vegetation in here that is typical for wet areas. And I'm talking at this point, as you're just walking into the woods, you've got a lot of cedar, got a lot of red maple.
And the other thing we have right here is a black ash, which is used by our Native Americans to do their baskets. So there's a purple triangular box that will hang there later that they are doing the studies to make sure that the emerald ash borer doesn't come here. So far, so good. It has not gotten here.
Okay, this hole right here in the tree, I know what made that hole. Do you?
I'm assuming a woodpecker. Would that be the affiliated woodpecker?
Yeah, it would be affiliated. Yep,
Yeah.
it's a squarish hole.
Oh, okay. That's their...
Yep, they make squares.
All right. Now I can... Nothing I can add to my guiding tour. I know it's woodpecker, but I want to make sure I'm telling them the right woodpecker.
Yep, that's affiliated.
All right. And they are definitely square looking, that's for sure.
Okay.
The ones that I like... I get these at home are the yellow-bellied sapsucker.
Yes, and they're all over here, too.
Oh, and my goodness, their little holes are in perfect little lines. Oh, the tamarack has come out
Yes,
now.
it has.
That's another fun thing to teach the kids is the difference between a tamarack, which is a conifer, and it has needles, but it's not an evergreen.
Right.
And so we teach them that, and then the other big one out here, if I can get them to know the difference between a tamarack and a black spruce, I figure we've learned something today. So that works out nicely. And there's a lot of cedar in here also.
I hear music. Either it's time for another break, or this show is getting as artsy as public radio. I'm with my guide, Donna Dwyer, on the Orono Bog Boardwalk. Now, I realize a lot of people have taken this walk and read the interpretive signs. So some of this may be old news, but I'll try to keep you updated as to where we are in this walk. We started out at the info kiosk in Bangor City Forest. We worked our way past the first interpretive sign, Station 1. We're coming up on Station 2. And as we get a little further down the boardwalk, it's getting denser with black spruce, more tamarack and cedar. And the forest is closing in on us a little. That probably means something. And you'll probably have to wait a few minutes to find out what. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. Saturday mornings at 9, Sunday mornings at 8. This show doesn't have a studio. This show happens outdoors. And the outdoors today is the Orono Bog Boardwalk. I'm joined by Donna Dwyer, a volunteer who gets to guide and interpret along this boardwalk all summer. We're making great progress. We've gone a whole 700 feet, and we're coming up on another interpretive sign. So this is a different station. This is station number 2, and I noticed things have changed. We've got more tamarack, and we've certainly got a lot more black spruce. I'm assuming that's because the ground has changed a little bit, the acidic conditions have changed a little, and so the foliage has changed a bit.
The peat is deeper here, and because of that peat, the acidic condition is becoming more acidic.
Black spruce has a lot of cool things in it. It's a Nashville warbler singing right back there, in fact. And another one over here, they're fighting.
The other thing that's showing up now, too, in this section is you do start seeing the beginnings of the peat moss more than we did back that direction. I had a group of second graders one day that were out here, and we were clear out in the 300s in the bog, right in the bog. And I'd done all this lesson on skunk cabbages and pitcher plants and all of that, and the ferns in this part of the woods. And they got out there in the middle of the bog, and this girl, and I've been doing tours for years, and this was just a couple of years ago, this girl says, "How come there's no ferns and skunk cabbages out here? How come?" And I thought, wow, this second grader, 8-year-old, had figured that out. So then we got to have that lovely discussion about the difference. More sunshine out there, wetter conditions, you know, more moss that didn't help them any, that kind of thing. And
let's pause right here for a second. Get that guy. It's a palm warbler.
Because I was out here Monday. It wasn't green yet. And the other thing that you will see, and it's not blooming yet, is rhodora will show up in this section. And I'm waiting for it to bloom. Oh, yeah, right here's a rhodora. The only way I can tell that that's what it is right now is the old seed pods from last year. Of course, that's the native Maine rhododendron, the rhodora. And it has got beautiful pink flowers on it. Pinkish. Almost a slight purple tinge to them.
I heard a Canada warbler from this spot a moment ago, and he sang once and never again, little bugger. He's in here somewhere.
Uh-oh. They're not supposed to do that. They're supposed to keep on singing.
Honestly, don't they know who I am?
Right. They're supposed to do that for you.
If you're wondering who I am, I'm Bob Duchesne. If you're wondering who she is, she's Donna Dwyer. And if you're just joining us and wondering where we are, we're on the Orono Bog Boardwalk. If you've been out here before, we've walked almost the entire wooded section, and we'll be popping out into the open bog in just a moment. But there's another interpretive sign between us and sunlight. So we'll meet you there in just a moment. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. We're walking the Orono Bog Boardwalk, and I've got my own personal guide, Donna Dwyer, along. While the interpretive signs are nice, and there are 7 of them along the way, having somebody along who actually knows the full story behind all this is pretty cool. As we walk, we're almost out of the woods, and just one more stop to make.
And we're coming into Station 3 right now. And Station 3 is kind of unique out here on the boardwalk because it's on what we call an upland island. And come to find out, it's really a peninsula, but that's okay. And it's the part that you actually go uphill a tiny bit.
Yeah.
And out here, the trees are bigger. The ground has very light moss on it, but it is solid dirt. And because it is mineral soil, the trees can grow to their natural sizes. Where trees that are growing on hummocks out in the bog are very stunted because they don't get the same kind of nutrition as trees that are in mineral soil. And here, the peat is barely noticeable on the very surface, and down underneath is dirt. This is also a neat area because you will find the bunchberries will be all over here when they start blooming. And we also have our resident lady slippers over here on the left-hand side when the time comes. One thing I've found interesting over the years with the black spruce is that their cones, when they first come out, they're actually purple.
Yes.
They're really very pretty. So that's something to look for when they finally get to that point.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we're going to leave the woods and go out into the main part of the bog.
The best part.
Yeah.
I can remember one of the first groups I brought out here, and I got to the point where when we wind the corner up here to get to round the corner up here to get to Station 4, that is when it opens right up into the bog. So I'll send the kids out first so they can see it. And just the awe in their voices is just amazing. And this one child says, "It's a desert." Because it was so stunted compared to being in the woods. And I said, well, kind of, but it's just the opposite.
Yeah, right.
It's very wet. It's not dry. But it was interesting hearing a child's perspective on the whole thing. And this area is really fascinating because the pitcher plants are out here. The pitcher plant flowers will be here in the end of June, beginning of July. And the bog orchids will show up here then in July. Labrador tea is a fascinating plant that's out in this area and all the way around. Yeah. And then the sheep's laurel and the bog rosemary will have pink flowers on them. And then you've got the contrast with the green plants, and the peat moss turns color out here. Mm-hmm. It is no longer green like it was in the woods. It's now red. And we always have a discussion about, well, what do you think makes it turn red out here?
And what did you decide?
We decided it's like our skin. If we're exposed to the sun too much, we turn red.
Oh, you're just making that up.
Yep. Well, the other thing that's out here is the bog cranberries. Mm-hmm. And those are amazing, too, because the leaf, the little branches with leaves on them are so tiny that they're actually bigger than, the berry itself is bigger than the plant. So we have a good time hunting for the cranberries out here. And I don't even see the plants up on the surface of the moss yet, so it's early for them. The other thing that you can find clear out here in this bog is the sundews. Mm-hmm. which along with the pitcher plant are carnivorous plants. The sundews have like a paddle-like leaf on them. They're very tiny. The little leaves aren't any bigger around than the end of your little finger, and you really have to get down to look for them. But they have little filaments that stick out from the edges of the leaves and have little tiny drops of water on them, which is why they're called sundews. That attracts the bugs, and then the filaments actually grow right around the bug, and the plant takes the nutrition right out of the bug. The bug is no more. In the pitcher plants, of course, the bugs are attracted to them and crawl in and end up drowning in the water that's inside the pitcher part of the plant. And the cilia on the leaf of that pitcher plant grows in, so the bugs can crawl in, but they have a very difficult time crawling back out. So it's fun to bring a turkey baster out here, and you take some of the water from a pitcher, make sure that you put your finger on the end of the turkey baster so you can take it out and show the kids what is inside the pitcher plant. One time I opened it up, and inside are 2 spiders, and I'm going, those spiders are getting close to my finger. Do I really want this? Then it dawns on me they're dead, so it doesn't matter. But
all 8 legs in the air.
That's right. And the plant actually secretes a little bit of chemical into the water that helps digest the bugs. And then the minerals are in the water, and the plant uses that for their nutrition.
And the reason they need the nutrition is because there are no nutrients out here.
That's right. It is pretty close to 0 nutrients out here. The way plants get their nutrients out here is from rain and dust in the air are the main sources of nutrients, because the bog itself is low, keeps the oxygen away, and therefore then plants just don't grow as big.
Well, let's take, for instance, this black spruce right here. That could be an old tree, and it's only 2 feet high.
That's right. And it could be, I bet it's guessing that it is probably about 40 years old.
Yeah. Now, it just barely gets up to the top of my knee, and it's maybe 40 years old, because there's nothing out here for nutrition. This is about one of the 2 plants that can really grow in here, except I don't know what the heck that white pine is doing in the middle of this bog.
And you know what? Every once in a while you can find a maple out here, too. And I really question how long they'll be here, because that definitely isn't a healthy-looking white pine. But that is a fascinating part about the age of them. We have some log pieces that were, we didn't go cut down any of the trees. This was something that was laying out here. They cut them into pieces, took them into the university so they could count the rings on the log to see how old the plant was, and you have to look for the rings under a microscope to count them. And the log piece, I can put my thumb to index finger around this log piece, and it's 95 years old.
Oh, my word.
95 years old, where the white pine in by the cabin, it's never been tested to see exactly how old it is, but we're figuring it's around 100 years old. And it takes 7 kindergartners holding hands to wrap around the base of that white pine. So about the same age, of course 2 different species, obviously, but big difference in the size of them. We stopped here because we're now going off of the new composite aluminum framed decking onto the old
carpenter ant infested.
Right. Rotting boardwalk, okay? The brown rot is what's causing the biggest problems, along with the carpenter ants. Notice, too, there's all kinds of new boards that have been replaced, and there will be lots more replaced as we go along through the summer.
Well, let's talk about the fact we need more money. Donations are gratefully accepted at all times.
At all times.
There's a lot of recognition that goes with it, too. I mean, first of all, this has become a city landmark. Everybody in Bangor has been out here one time or another, or should have.
That's right.
And that includes most of eastern Maine, because this is unique. There's not a lot like this anywhere else.
There is not. And it is amazing, the people that come from out of state and have either seen this on a website or as one of the attractions to see in Maine when you come, and they want to be on this boardwalk. and they come out and thoroughly enjoy it. So we really have a treasure right here for everybody to enjoy, including those in baby carriages and wheelchairs, because we are totally ADA compliance with the being able to get people out here to the boardwalk.
And when you talk about nature and wildlife and habitat, bogs are unique habitats, and you can't get into them. It's really almost impossible to do much walking out here.
That is you're very right there. And this part right here is pretty amazing, because this is a huge lawn of moss that has very little tall growth in it. You know, there's a few little hummocks, little hills with tiny little trees on them, but it's basically just a great big huge lawn of moss and water.
Yep. And we're standing at Station 5, if you're wondering where we're talking about, because you can retrace our steps and do this yourself. When you look around, you get the idea, yeah, this was a pond at one time, if you can really almost visualize where the shoreline was.
Yeah, the tall trees are right around the outside edges. In the fall, spring it's looking pretty amazing now too, because you can see the light greens of the new leaves coming out over on the far edges of the bog. The ravens love this area too.
Yes, they do.
They're pretty amazing to watch when they're out here. The other thing I found interesting is that a tamarac's cones are red when they first come out. And this one tamarack
let's look
right here, when it got its cones a few years ago, it looked like a little mini Christmas tree. But it hasn't got these are the old cones from it. You can see them. Of course, the cones are only as big as, they're less than a half an inch for the cones. So it isn't time yet for the new ones, so we'll have to wait and see. Good tamarack to watch for them.
And the needles on this one aren't as out as far as the ones that were in the woods.
The ones in the woods are definitely out further, and they'll lose their needles before these lose their needles too. So it's kind of interesting that way. This is where we have, you will see more of the orchids. The cotton grass will be blowing in the breezes later on this summer, and there's pitcher plants out here to be seen. This is a great area here. One number to remember when you're looking at numbered sections, because every section has a number on it. We're in the process of renumbering them because the weather takes the numbers off on us. 333 is 333 is an easy number to remember, and it's a spot where you can find the sundews when they come out. It's too early yet. We'll have to wait till late May, June, and they're definitely there in July. If you wait till October, they're gone again. So,
as you can hear from the music sneaking up under us again, we're going to take our last break. Donna Dwyer is walking me around the Orono Bog Boardwalk. Even though I've been here many times, there's some stuff I didn't know, and some stuff I kind of knew but got wrong, and some stuff I know very well because it's just a cool place for interesting birds, and you know how I get. We're right out on the boardwalk as far as you can go before it loops around and starts heading back. One of those interesting places that I did not know about is right in front of us right now. There are over 500 sections of this boardwalk, and one of them, just one of them, is not like the others. Let's see if you know what this is all about when we return. You're listening to Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine, and this is Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. Welcome back to Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. Today's show is taking place on the Orono Bog Boardwalk. Bogs are cool, but they're also hard to get into. You can't really walk on this stuff, and if you did, you'd probably damage it forever anyway. So access into a bog is really unusual. There is one at Quoddy Head State Park in Lubec. There's one at Eagle Hill Bog on Campobello. That's it. I can't think of any more. Donna Dwyer is a boardwalk volunteer who's telling me stuff I didn't know, like this section of boardwalk right in front of us.
this piece right here is an interesting piece. It's very different from all the others. There was one in the woods that has been taken out. This is the original composite wood made by the Composite Center at the University of Maine, the Advanced Structures and Composite Center at the University of Maine, before it was called that. And these were the test sections to see how composite would do. And they are as sturdy as can be, no rot, heavy, extremely heavy. To get the other one out of the woods to put in the new stuff, they had to saw it in half. Because it was too heavy to be lifted. And my suggestion is to leave this one here when we put the new ones in.
Oh, absolutely. I think we should see how long this one lasts.
See how long it lasts. But one thing that was found from these sections and other test places is that composite wood was too heavy. So now when composite wood is made for the decks at your home, that composite wood has little air holes in it. And that helps make it a little bit lighter. We have tree circles out here too.
Tree circles?
We don't have crop circles. We have tree circles. And I'll show you that up here. It's called black spruce layering. And as that black spruce tree is growing, the moss is also getting thicker and thicker. So the lower branches on the black spruce are covered up with moss. And as I say, they go, wait a minute here, I can't get light. So instead of growing out, they turn and grow up. So it makes it look like you have all these little trees growing around a bigger tree. And it's really the branches of the big tree that's in the center of the circle, or the tree may no longer be there.
Right here, for instance.
Right here. This is an excellent example of of black spruce layering a tree circle. And this is right here at sections around 330. And you can see a very perfect circle of that. If we had the money and could do the DNA testing, they would probably show that all of those little trees in that circle are the same DNA as each other, because they all came from the same original tree. So,
I did not know that.
It's a really fun, and that is a perfect example on the inside of 330 of a tree circle.
It's funny, this area is infested with hermit thrushes, and I've not heard a song all morning, and I just heard one call note a moment ago, and that's been it. So they're quiet today.
This is not their kind of day, I guess.
They have no excuse. This is a good day.
It is. It's beautiful. And the breeze is picked up to keep the bugs away,
yes.
Which is nice. I can handle that. We're now out here at Station 6. You're really right out in the middle of the bog when you walk from Station 5 to Station 6. The explanation about the black spruce layering is right on the interpretive station board for Station 6. And the other thing that's here is a water pipe. It's a floating pipe that helps you see where the water level is in the bog. And you kind of have to read it backwards. And you count down from it. And right now the water level is 2 inches below the bog. One of the summers, about the second summer that I started doing things here at the boardwalk, we had an extremely dry summer. And the water level would be 12 and 13 inches below the bog because we had no rain. But interestingly enough, when you have a fairly normal level of rain, it stays anywhere from 2 to 4, maybe 6 inches below, but right around in there. And the other important thing about a bog is it helps use up the carbon dioxide in the air. So it counteracts the climate warming situation.
Sounds like we need more bogs.
Yes, well, we need to stop taking the peat out of the bogs in the process, because it's that microorganisms with the peat down under the bog that are using the carbon dioxide.
When you look at some of the things we've done over the years, you wonder how humans became the dominant species on the planet.
Sometimes, yeah.
All right, at being a bird expert, I want to say that these signs are absolutely uncannily accurate. At Station 6, there's pictures of palm warbler, which are singing all around us. I've heard at least 3. And Lincoln sparrow I don't think they're back yet, but they're due any minute.
Oh.
I've not heard one this morning.
They'll be coming soon.
Any second.
Yeah. I wish they had put the sounds for the birds on here with the pictures.
Yeah. Well, palm warbler is a loose, rattly, buzzy sort of trill. And there's been at least 3 singing, and this whole section as we head back towards the woods is where they concentrate the most. So if we don't hear one on the way back here, I'll be some surprised.
That's one thing that's really important here at the Bog Walk is that no one is paid to work out here. We are all volunteers. And we definitely could use some more volunteers. Yes. When you consider that we have people that are in, majority of our volunteers, I would say, are probably in their 60s and 70s.
Yep.
And we need new people out here to volunteer.
Every organization is facing that, as
yes, they are.
You undoubtedly know.
Yes.
And to some extent, it's really hard for younger folks with families to get away from the kids' soccer practice on weekends.
Yes, it is. Very difficult. And I was there once, too, so I understand. But something to remember and consider, that if you have some time, just an hour or 2 a week, it's always appreciated. Because everything can be done from a docent to maintenance to cleaning the outhouse.
Oh yeah, that's the job I want.
Yes, not my favorite, but we have volunteers that open the gate every morning at 7, and for this time of year, from May till Labor Day, the boardwalk opens at 7 o'clock in the morning, and the gate is closed at 6:30 p.m. and then it is locked up at by 7 o'clock. So if you want to get out here in the evenings this time of year, you need to get here before 6:30.
So here we are at Station 7. It says Nashville warbler, which is true. One usually sings in this spot, and common yellowthroats are always here.
This is another area here at Station 7 that if you want to see orchids, this is definitely a spot you will see them when they come out. And the white orchid is a white fringed orchid, and it doesn't have like a single flower on the top of its stem. It has a stalk with lots of little flowers on it with little fringe, so you can tell it's a white fringed orchid. Is that the new growth? Yes.
Yep.
That is your bog rosemary. And it's just about ready to flower. The buds are just about ready to open. That's the bog rosemary.
Does it smell like rosemary?
No. Just the leaf is long and skinny like a rosemary leaf. I still want the rhodora to bloom, but you can see the buds are there. And what's fun about the rhodora is it flowers, and it looks like the plant's dead because it leafs out after the flowers. And then this is your Labrador tea. And you can turn the leaf over on a Labrador tea. It's fuzzy on the back side of the leaf. And when they're old leaves and the fuzz is brown, that is scraped off and used to make tea. And the Native Americans used to make tea out of it. So we have just finished walking the 509 8-foot sections of the boardwalk. We are now repeating the first 106 of them to get back to the cabin, and we have replaced 251 sections of the boardwalk. And that has cost us about $720,000. And we need to raise another approximate little over $400,000 to replace the other 256 sections that have, or 57 sections that haven't been replaced yet.
And when you consider this is all done with volunteer labor, you realize it's only materials that are ratcheting up that cost.
Right. It is the building of the sections. So people, I don't think, really realize how much it costs to put this out here. But we're back to the skunk cabbages and the ferns all coming up. Anybody that's interested in more information about the boardwalk, we have a web page, and we also have a Facebook page. And we try to keep people updated on what's going on out here. The interesting piece was opening on May 1st. Boy, did we generate a lot of interest on Facebook. It's like we had 8,000 reaches on one posting about what was going on out here, because people were ready for it to open. So,
Well, thank you so much.
well, thank you. I enjoyed my morning walk out here.
That's it from Orono Bog Boardwalk and Bangor City Forest. You know, the first time I ever visited this place, there was a van with Vermont license plates in the parking lot. Coming to find out, it was a tour. They were headed down east and then on to Canada, but the boardwalk had only been open a week and its reputation was already spreading fast. In 2006, I took a whole bunch of birding experts from around the country in here. One of those guys was Robert Ridgely, an expert so renowned that he's the guy who wrote most of the guidebooks describing birds in South America. He couldn't believe what he was seeing out here. This boardwalk was world-class in his opinion, and he should know since he's been on a lot of them. Sometimes we take for granted what's right in front of us. Remember, this show and all previous shows are archived online at 929theticket.com. Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine airs every Saturday morning at 9 and Sunday morning at 8. Brought to you by Hammond Lumber, Doors Equipment, Napa Auto Parts, and EBS on Sports Radio 929 The Ticket.